Hello, Pearl Jam fan community. Welcome to the Wishlist Foundation's interview series, Candle of Thought, where we illuminate the people, causes, and music that are important to the Pearl Jam community. I am your host, Chrissy Ferguson. Today, I am chatting with LA Food Bank's Marketing and Communications Director, David May. As many of you know, Wishlist Foundation hosted fundraising pre-parties before the Pearl Jam Dark Matter shows in May of 2024. One of our beneficiaries of these pre-parties was LA Food Bank. While we raised more than $2,000 at these pre-parties to help LA Food Bank, now is the time more than ever that we all come together to help LA Food Bank and those who have lost so much in the fires in California. Today, David will tell us how our monetary donations to LA Food Bank can make a direct impact on those whose lives have been affected by the wildfires that occurred just a couple of months ago in January. So, welcome, David, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about what LA Food Bank has historically done for those in need before we actually start talking about what you're currently doing for those in your community?
Sure. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank has been around for a little over 50 years, and in that time, we've provided more than 2 billion pounds of food throughout all of LA County. So, LA City, but that includes everything. LA County includes everything from Lancaster to Long Beach, everywhere in between. It's a very large area. In fact, it's larger than most states. So we have, unfortunately, like a lot of places, a food insecurity and a nutrition insecurity issue in Los Angeles County. So even in normal times, there's an estimated 2 million people who at some point in the month may not know exactly where their next meal is coming from. So we provide food assistance through a partner agency network of about 600 other organizations and through our programs and direct distributions that also provide food out into the community. Some of those programs include like a mobile food pantry program that helps us address food deserts and things like that. And we also have a backpack program, which some of these things we can talk about a little bit more later. But our primary goal is that, and our vision is that no one goes hungry in LA County. So, regardless of the cause, regardless of the location, regardless of the story, if people are in need of food assistance in LA County, then we're there to make sure that they get the nutrition that they need for themselves and their families.
What is the process of making sure that people are getting that food? Are they coming to you or are you going to them?
It's a great question. So, as the director of marketing and communications for the LA Regional Food Bank, part of my role is to make sure that the food assistance programs are discoverable by the people who are seeking food and nutrition assistance. So, on our website, we have something called the Find Food or the Pantry Locator. And what that would be is if you or someone you know, or if there's someone out in the community that's in need of food or nutrition assistance, they can go to lafoodbank.org/find food and type in the zip code and find the nearest distribution point. So we're also proactively reaching people through Google Ad grants and through flyers and through other relationships that we have with other organizations and city officials and things like that to help get the word out there about where people can get food assistance. So a lot of times we end up being, I guess for some people, the last line of defense. Of course, there's the in California called CalFresh, nationally known as SNAP program, that also helps to try to close that meal gap. And that's something that's on the more governmental level. We're a nonprofit organization. We rely on the generosity of the community to do our essential work. But what that means is that people will either support us financially or through food product donations or through volunteering. And then we're able to get that, it helps us get the food out into the community for people who, CalFresh doesn't go all the way for everybody. There are some people who don't want to take advantage of the CalFresh program or maybe don't understand whether or not they qualify. So we're sort of a different approach to a nonprofit approach to providing food assistance to people who are seeking that assistance.
And how have you seen the needs change since the fires occurred?
Well, if it's okay, I may even go back a little further. I started at the food bank about 6.5 years ago. And at that time, we were reaching about 300,000 people
Wow.
every month, but with the combination of our partner agencies. But then, of course, the pandemic hit, which created a huge surge in the need for food assistance. In fact, at the worst part of the pandemic, it was over 1 million people on average every month who was seeking food assistance from us and our partners, which if LA County is about 10 million people, that's about a tenth of the
Wow.
population was getting food through the food bank and our partners. Then moving on past the pandemic, I guess into the sort of endemic stages of the pandemic later into 2023 and 2024, we really didn't see those numbers go down a whole lot. For a little while, maybe it went down to about 800,000, then back up to about 900,000 people every month and kind of stabilized at that 900,000. So if you think about before the pandemic, 300,000 up to 900,000.
Yeah.
And then we had the fires, of course, in early 2025. And that was another, we internally referred to it as it felt like in some ways another pandemic where the need for food assistance really shot up pretty dramatically. We're fortunate to have so many good partnerships throughout LA County with our partner agencies. There are going to be some of those partner agencies that are much closer to the fires themselves and the affected burn areas, the areas where people were evacuated. And remember, for those of you, it's all too apparent for those of us that are in LA County, but I know that you have a national audience here. So for some people that aren't quite as familiar with the geography of Los Angeles County, there were multiple fires in different parts, and there is a little bit of you almost might want to say inaccuracy about the types of people who were affected. It wasn't all celebrities. It wasn't all wealthy people. There were people in different parts of LA County that, apartment buildings burned down. There were standard, middle income, regular income, all income levels affected, businesses. I attended a sort of fire, a kind of a relief event, sort of a resource fair, and was talking with people there. And one of the people that I talked with said, "Oh, well, I didn't lose my home, and fortunately, none of my family members lost my home. But I'm here seeking assistance because I took care of four people's homes
Wow.
as far as housekeeping." And now I have no job because all four of those homes burned down. So actually, now I need food assistance. So it's interesting, too, to think about the ripple effect in the economy, not just of the people who lost their homes, but in the economic sort of ripple effect that now is sort of is becoming more apparent in the aftermath of the fires.
Right. Wow. And with what you just said, are there any stories that really stand out to you that really impacted you? Um, and it probably still, you're hearing about people who are in great need. Are there any stories that you can share with us?
Yeah, there was one person that we talked to that another person that sticks out in my mind who had really a great home in Altadena, but it was a family home. It was a home that he inherited and felt like now that it was gone and they're looking at the cost of rebuilding, it's sort of the situation for him that uh, he may not have been able to buy the house on his own. And so now it's extra financial pressure. So that's another example of somebody, we think of the people who are really just on the wealthy side who are affected, but there are also people that, their families worked really hard to finally get this home and then they have passed on and, passed it on to their kids
Right.
and now it's gone, so that story sticks out to me. The story I told a little earlier about, the kind of the ripple effect, the people that we don't think of. You hear about the business owners. That's one side of the story, but there's also the employees of the businesses who, burnt down as well. So there's also stories of people that uh, their house didn't burn, but their whole neighborhood, everyone around them is gone.
Wow.
And so they have maybe water contamination issues and other issues that they're dealing with. It's been very eye opening and very of course, in many ways, very sad to hear about. I mean, the loss of life being the most tragic thing, of course, and then the loss of property, but then also just this ripple effect that, the UCLA had a pretty interesting study talking about the economic impact. And if I remember right, the upper echelon of estimated damage was, I think, 131 billion, and the estimated wage loss, was up in the hundreds of millions as well. So, um,
Wow.
it's much more than just those. And I mean, just those. I mean, it's terrible, all the homes that were lost and all the businesses that were lost, but it's just so much deeper than that too, and something that people are going to be working. We're all, as a community, going to be working our way out of it for certainly easily weeks and probably months, and for some people maybe years.
Right. So, how can we help? Here, this community is very generous and always wants to help. And I know the monetary donations are really the best way to help. So can you tell us about that? And we talked a little bit before this interview, about
Yeah,
sending items to. What is the best way that we can help and make sure that these people get the direct need?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a couple ways to help that are very impactful. And I would say it just depends on your personal situation, what you're most comfortable. If you want to get involved, there's a couple different ways. If you are local or close enough that you can come by, then we do still need volunteers. Sign up for a volunteer shift at lafoodbank.org/volunteer. That's a great place to go. Some people are farther away. I would say the best way to get involved at a distance probably is that financial contribution. It's just very easy. It's very transportable. You can be anywhere in the country and log on to this Team We Feed LA page that you've set up, and make a financial contribution. Some people are more comfortable providing food donations to the food bank. That's fine as well. Every little bit helps, and we're happy to receive the food as well. I can show a little of our facility so you can get a sense of the scale. Like I mentioned, we're one of the largest food banks in the country, and we're responsible for all of LA County, not just LA City. So you can imagine that requires some pretty big infrastructure. And I think it's good to help people see the perspective of things too. But the other way to look at it is, if you're in if you're on the East Coast and you think, I'd really like them to have, a couple jars of peanut butter or some beans or whatever, just remember that you're going to be paying that, and then you're going to be paying the freight to send it across the country over to California. There is peanut, but we have all these products here more locally, and they're the best way to get that to us. And again, the most sensitive way to get it to us from the perspective of trucking or flying or shipping things all over, is probably just to provide that financial contribution. Most of the food that we receive is donated. So when you make a financial contribution, you're helping us with the logistics. You'll help us with, there's trucks that have to transport all of this stuff to all the different places. We have a couple dozen trucks. Many of them are refrigerated. In fact, this is probably a good time for me to share a little bit of. In fact, this is a little bit of fresh off the press. I don't know if anybody's seen this yet. This is some new drone footage of our new City of Industry facility, about 256,000 square feet. This is our volunteer center. So if you do
Wow.
come in and volunteer, this is what you would see. We have our donor wall here. This is a space where volunteers come in and receive their instructions, and have a little sort of explanation of what the food bank does. But what I really want to show, here's what the volunteer activity looks like. If you're at one of our facilities, you're preparing food for later distribution. We do have volunteer programs also where we're helping our partner agencies recruit for volunteers. So you can also request to actually be one of the people who's providing food directly out into the community. Um, this is, of course, food that's being packaged for later distribution. I won't, for privacy's sake, say who, but I will say someone in this photo actually drove their camper van out from Arizona when the fires hit, and
Wow.
has been volunteering at the food bank every day. Now, I'm not saying to everybody watching that you need to do that. You don't need to drive all the way out and you know um, do that if you don't want to, of course. But here's another look of what the volunteer program
Wow.
looks like at our City of Industry facility. Um, Here's the peanut butter I'm talking about. We have a lot of these. You'll see in this video actually a lot of canned food items. It's helpful to have shelf stable product when we're providing assistance in a situation like the fires, where not everybody had access to refrigeration. shelf stable and ready to eat. Actually, most of the kits, these aren't kits necessarily that are designed for people affected by the fires. Those kits often were granola bars and bags of nuts and things that were just really easy to open, even without a kitchen. But this gives you a sense of our warehouse. And this is just, probably about what you're seeing here is maybe about 20% of the storage. There's a lot more storage than this. So it's something to keep in mind when people are thinking, oh, I'll mail them a couple cans of food. It's like, that's great. And again, every little bit helps. But really, the best thing for you to do if you're at a distance, if you're going to come volunteer and you want to bring some food items with you, that's great. That's a great way to donate, a great time to donate. But rather than ship things all over the country, it's probably better to make that financial contribution. These are licensed forklift drivers. We can't have volunteers on forklifts. So we do have staff that we have to pay. It's somewhere between 2 and 5 million pounds of food is going through these warehouses every week. So it's a
Wow.
lot of food going out into the community. Like I said, we're still reaching about 900,000 people every month. So that gives you a little bit of a sense of the scale and the size and the scope of what we're talking about.
Wow, that's amazing. So you have a lot of space it looks like a big operation. Everybody's
Well, it's interesting too. Yeah, that's our City of Industry facility, and it's a newer facility. It's designed to not be at 100% capacity because we want to have that disaster surge like we needed in the COVID-19 pandemic, and of course in the response to the fires. And it's a good thing that the building was structured that way because when the fires hit, there was fortunately as fast as food was going out, and it was there was a lot of food coming in too at the same time. So we needed that flex
right.
space. We needed to be able to scale up and store all that food because again, the lasting impact is it's going to be a while, far beyond when everyone's attention is away from LA. We had everybody paying attention and being very thoughtful and very generous early on. And as the media and as people kind of move on to other stories, um, there's still going to be people out there that need help, is what I'm saying, far after it's not what everyone's talking about.
Right.
There's still people. There's still a lot of people that need help. Yeah.
And that's what I was just going to bring up is, you forget that it was only a couple of months ago. And
Yeah.
the need is going to be so great for such a long
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
we're just so happy that we're able to put our own wish list team
Yeah.
page together. Um, they're Los Angeles Food Bank is going to need our support, everyone, for a while. So please, please take a look at our link and head there, and whatever contribution you can make, $10, $50, whatever you can give, $5. We have a goal of $500 to reach at least $500 by April 30th. And I know that we can do that, and I hope that we can exceed that. And we just thank you so much, David, for telling us all about what you all are doing and for chatting with me today. And our thoughts are with all of you. And we hope that our wish list team is going to get way over $500 so that we can directly help LA Food Bank and those who are in such great, great need during this difficult time. So thanks
Well,
again, David.
yeah, absolutely. And on behalf of the food bank and the people that we serve, thank you so much for your generosity and for thinking of us and for helping the LA community in this difficult time. If you're interested in food banks in general, I know you have a national reach here with this podcast. So we also recommend going to feedingamerica.org if you are interested in learning about food banking more generally speaking. Of course, what we're talking about here is the response to the greater Los Angeles wildfires. But if anything in this conversation has made you interested to get more involved in your local food bank as well, there's a list at feedingamerica.org, and you can always get involved locally as well.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thanks again. And we'll be in touch. And hopefully by April 30th, we'll be exceeding our $500 goal. So thanks.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you all very much.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.